All right, so now we're going to make an illustration inside of an illustration. It's always kind of funny to me. We did this earlier with our little kind of snapshot. We're going to be making something similar, but we're going to be using slightly different colors and a slightly different look. So it won't feel exactly the same, but it'll be similar, but it'll be completely different size. It'll, people will think it's different. So we need a square. We need to come up with a woodsy color. That's a little dark. That's a little yellow. That's perfect. Yet again, on woodsy colors, I pretty much stick to the orange, yellow, red area, and then just kind of play around in there until I find something I like. Feel free to copy any of my my color codes if you want. Then we're going to add another square. We're going to shrink this one up a little bit. And we're actually creating the frame now. Now you have a choice to make here. Do you want the frame to be big? Do you want the frame to be, skinny? Whatever you'd like. If you don't want it to be wood, you can make it look metal. Another question you have to ask yourself is, do you want matting? Which, for those of you guys who aren't super familiar with framing, matting is the kind of papery or canvas looking substance or sheeting that's in between the frame and the photo that kind of acts as a border almost, or a spacer. If you go to any of your Hobby Lobbies or frame shops or things like that, they'll always put some matting on whatever you're getting framed, and there's a litany of different reasons as to why that we don't need to get into. What we do need to get into is, what do you want your look to be? Usually with your more professional framing jobs, there's always going to be matting. With your I just want to hang up this picture, so I got this frame from Walmart, you're usually not going to see matting. So you need to ask yourself, what do you want the feel of this object to be? Do you want it to look, very professionally done? Put matting, thicker frame. If you want it to look less expensively done, no matting, very skinny frame. And we're going to go for the no matting, very skinny frame because our ultimate illustration is going to be a workstation, and I'm just going to assume that this gentleman wanted to have the photo in his office. Gentleman or lady wanted to have the photo in their office, and they went to Target, wherever, and got a frame and put it in there and hung it up. We need a background, and we're going to go for something in the sky blue range. I think that looks pretty good. That would play like a very nice clear day. And we're going to go back and we're going to put some mountains in. And this is going to feel reminiscent to the other one that we made, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And just trying to make these look a little bit different from each other. And on this, just play. That's all you really need to do. Just play with it until you get it how you like it, whatever that is. Okay, and let's do a sun. And I want to show a little bit of depth, and I'm going to have the sun actually kind of coming up or hanging out behind the mountains. Just like that. He's a little bright, so I'm going to bring down the opacity maybe to 80. And then my mountains are, there is no gray mountain. Well, there are gray mountains, but it doesn't look good right now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pick some different colors and kind of play around until we get something that feels like what we're looking for. I kind of like that. Maybe a darker version. And then we'll go with a lighter. And then we'll go with a very light version. I actually want to bring this guy forward. And I'm going to make him a little different somehow. Like that. I like that. I feel like my mountains are a little tall. They don't look very mountainy. They look kind of cartoony. So I'm going to squat them down a little. And they don't want to play ball with me. So I'm going to have to wiggle around here just a little. I like that. That looks neat. All right, now we're going to make a cloud. If you remember the cloud from earlier, it's just a bunch of circles. They don't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But they do need to be white to off-white. And we're just going to throw some around until we get something that looks cloud-esque. And there we go. That looks like a pretty cool looking cloud. So we could stop right here, or we could keep playing with coloring, or we could add things. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to give these mountains kind of a snow cap look. You would just, oop, wrong way. You would just take a copy, shrink it up, put it in there, and then let's go to gray and give it a little bit of a haze. Let's try white, see how that looks. Bring down the opacity, and there you go. Now, the problem you're going to run into with Canva, and this is really easy to notice right now, Canva, unlike Illustrator or some of the more advanced softwares out there, you're very limited on your line work. You know, it's usually going to be very hard lines. And if you're trying to give something a particular feel, you're going to have to do a lot of playing to get it right. And that's why you have these shapes over here. And that's where you're going to kind of need to use your imagination. For instance, I could take this heart shape, shrink it way down, bring it in. Let's make it white. And let's attempt to match the opacity by just making this opacity really easy. We're going to do it 60%. Come way, way, way in. And I'm going to use this heart shape to give me a way to have a definition in how that snow cap falls. Now, you may find that it's really tough to do this, and I'll be honest with you, it is. Because you can see right here with overlapping opacities, I already don't like it. It looks terrible. So if I bring it all the way up, I can keep these little guys poking out from the bottom with that kind of lower opacity if I want. And that doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't 100% give me that smoky, white capped mountain kind of feel. Let's zoom out so you guys can get a good feel for it. And then again, it doesn't look terrible, it just doesn't look good. And it's better to have something that looks good than something that looks terrible. Or, well, that's probably the wrong way to say it. It's better to have something that looks good than have something that looks complicated but bad. Terrible is probably too strong of a word. And, if you sat there and you fiddle with this for, a while, could you make something that kind of had like that snow-capped mountain look to it? Of course you could. You could sit there and play and play and play. But as you've heard me say several times in this course, for the amount of real estate that this is going to be taking up, do we want to spend 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, whatever it may be, fiddling with it? And, usually my answer is no, not so much. So I'm going to get rid of all this. And there we go. So there's our kind of mountainy image. And you can keep playing with this to make it whatever brand of perfect that you're going for. But I think for me, I'm pretty content. So we are going to take this and we are going to group, copy, and bring it over to our storage and paste. And you can just hang out right there. And we have one more object left to do, and that is going to be the computer that sits on our desk. I will see you guys in the next lesson, and we will go from there.